Let's dive into a story inspired by this mysterious checkmate photo, a haunting image where the devil sits smirking on one side of a chessboard while a man, stretched thin with desperation, slumps on the other. Picture this, a tale of wit, temptation, and a game that holds a soul in the balance. The fog clung to the cobblestones of old Prague like a shroud, curling around the narrow alleys where gas lamps flickered weakly against the night. In a forgotten corner of the city, tucked beneath the eaves of a crumbling tavern called the Black Rook, a man named Elias Vok sat alone at a warped wooden table. His hands, calloused from years of manual labor, clutched a chipped glass of cheap rye whiskey. The air was heavy with the scent of damp wood and stale tobacco, and the tavern was empty save for Elias and the barkeep, who dozed behind the counter, his snores rattling like loose dice. Elias wasn't here for the drink. No, he'd come because of the whispers, rumors that slithered through Prague's underbelly about a game that could change a man's fate. They called it the Checkmate Challenge, a chess match against an opponent no one dared name outright. Win, and your heart's desire would be yours: wealth, love, power. Lose, and, well, no one spoke of the losers. But their absence was louder than words. Elias was no chess master. He was a clockmaker's apprentice, his days spent hunched over gears and springs, his nights haunted by dreams of a life less ordinary. He wanted more riches to lift his ailing mother from poverty, a name that echoed beyond the city's walls. So when a stranger in a velvet cloak slipped him a folded note 2 nights ago, with only an address and the words "Bring your courage," Elias knew he couldn't turn back. The tavern's door creaked open, and a chill swept in, though the night was warm. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in shadows despite the dim light. He was tall, too tall, with a presence that seemed to suck the air from the room. His coat was crimson, the color of dried blood, and a wide-brimmed hat obscured his face until he tilted his head, revealing eyes like burning coals and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. The devil himself, or as close as Elias ever cared to meet.
"Elias Vok," the figure said, his voice smooth as polished obsidian. "You've come to play."
Elias's heart thudded, but he nodded, his throat too dry to speak. The devil, if that's what he was, slid into the chair opposite him, setting a chessboard between them. It wasn't like any board Elias had seen. The squares were obsidian and ivory, carved with symbols that seemed to writhe when he stared too long. The pieces were heavy, cold to the touch, each one a tiny sculpture of anguish or ecstasy. Knights with screaming faces, bishops with hollow eyes, a king with a crown of thorns.
"One game," the devil said, leaning back, his fingers steepled. "You win, and I grant your heart's desire. Lose, and your soul is mine. Simple rules, no tricks, well, not many." He gestured to the board. "White moves first. Your call."
Elias's hands shook as he reached for a pawn, the white pieces gleaming like moonlight. He moved pawn to e4, a standard opening, one of the few he knew from watching old men play in the town square. The devil's grin widened, and he countered with pawn to e5, his movements languid, almost bored. But those eyes never left Elias, boring into him like they could see every fear, every doubt. The game began slowly, a dance of pawns and knights, each move a test of nerve. Elias played cautiously, his mind racing to recall half-forgotten strategies. The devil, though, played with a reckless elegance, sacrificing pieces with a laugh, as if the board were a stage and he the star performer.
"You're holding back," he taunted, sliding a bishop across the board, pinning Elias's knight. "Chess is war, boy. Commit or crumble."
Elias gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his brow. The tavern seemed to fade, the walls closing in until it was just him, the devil, and the board. He moved his queen, a bold strike to threaten the devil's rook, but the moment he let go, he felt a pang of dread. The devil's smile grew sharper, and he slid his knight forward, forking Elias's king and queen. "Check," he purred. Panic clawed at Elias's chest. He moved his king, but the devil's pieces seemed to multiply, hemming him in. Every move Elias made felt like a trap, every loss a step closer to defeat.
"You dream of wealth, don't you? A fine house, a warm bed for your mother. I see it in you. Fight for it, Elias. Fight, or it's mine."
Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time blurred in that stifling room. Elias's shirt clung to his skin, his fingers trembling as he pushed his last bishop forward, a desperate attempt to break the devil's onslaught. The board was a graveyard of his pieces, while the devil's army stood tall, unyielding. Elias's eyes darted across the squares, searching for a way out, but the devil's voice cut through his thoughts. "You're stretched thin, boy, like a man on a rack, pulled to breaking. One more move, and it's checkmate." Elias froze, his hand hovering over a rook. He saw it then. The photo in his mind burned into his memory years later when he'd recount this night to anyone who'd listen. Him, slumped over the board, his face gaunt with exhaustion, every muscle taut with fear. And across from him, the devil, lounging like a king, his eyes glinting with triumph, one clawed hand resting on a toppled king. Elias's king. But in that moment, something sparked in Elias. A memory of his mother's voice, singing softly as she taught him to wind clocks, to find order in chaos. He closed his eyes, shutting out the devil's taunts, and pictured the board in his mind. Every move, every loss, every sacrifice. And then he saw it. A faint, fragile thread of hope. He opened his eyes, moved his rook to a seemingly useless square, and looked the devil dead in the eye. "Your move." The devil's smirk faltered just for a moment. He leaned forward, studying the board, and for the first time, his fingers hesitated. He moved a pawn, a safe play, but Elias was ready. He slid his bishop back, setting up a discovered check with his queen. The devil's king was exposed. No escape. Elias's heart pounded as he whispered, "Check." The devil's eyes narrowed, his hand hovering over the board. He moved his king, but Elias was relentless, his pieces aligning like the gears of a perfect clock. Move after move, he pressed forward, each play tighter, sharper, until the devil's pieces were cornered. The final move came like a thunderclap. Elias's queen slid to h8, trapping the devil's king against the board's edge. "Checkmate," Elias said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. The tavern fell silent. The devil stared at the board, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, he began to laugh, a low, rumbling sound that shook the table. "Well played, clockmaker. Well played." He stood, tipping his hat, and the board vanished in a puff of smoke.
Your wish is yours. Name it.
Elias didn't hesitate. My mother's health, a long life for her, free of pain.
The devil's smile returned, sly and knowing. Done. But remember, Elias, every game has a price. You've won tonight, but I'm a patient player. With that, he stepped back, and the shadows swallowed him, leaving only the echo of his laughter.
Elias stumbled out of the tavern into the dawn, the fog lifting to reveal a city reborn in light. His mother lived another 20 years, hale and hearty, just as he'd asked. But Elias never played chess again. He kept that photo in his mind. The devil's smirk, his own stretched desperation, because he knew, deep down, the game wasn't over. Somewhere in some shadowed corner of the world, the devil was waiting, setting up another board, ready for the next move. And so Elias lived his days, always watching the shadows, always listening for the creak of a door, wondering when the Checkmate challenge would find him again. And that, my friends, is the legend of the devil's chess match. Would you play?